minutes after the top of the hour on this Tuesday night, 9th day of September 2014. Greetings, good evening. How you doing? Fast Eddie Lane behind the control panel. Welcome into Beyond Ringside as we go back to basics in more ways than one. Just looking to have a little bit of fun on this Tuesday kind of thing. A couple of quick notes. Want to run down real quick. You heard the PSA for the lottery numbers. Guess what? Powerball, $127 million. I live in the state of Alabama. If there is somebody in a state that does feature the multi-state lottery, whether it be Powerball or Mega Millions, Powerball being at 127, if you'll buy a ticket for me for tomorrow night's drawing, Wednesday night, September the 10th, I will be more than happy to give you that dollar if the ticket wins. We'll work on that concept. Trust me on this one. Got a lot of ground to cover. And we are slated, or actually yes, me and my 17 different personalities, thank you, Sybil, slated to be joined by the host of Legends Radio, Legends TV, the associate producer of The Wrestler, and a whole lot more. Evan Ginsberg is slated to join me here on Back to Basics in just a little while. I've got some program notes I would like to throw out. We have rescheduled Gavin Loudspeaker for this coming Sunday, September the 14th. Will be joining us at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Also, Shane Knowles, the president of the Peach State Wrestling Alliance, will be joining us on Saturday, September the 20th at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central for the Saturday showcase. Different things. You know, I'm the first one to sit back and say life happens. And trust me, I understand this pretty much is better than anybody. Because if anything can happen in a very screwed up capacity, it will happen in my life. So, from that vantage point, like I said, looking for some great things. And also, this past Sunday, great time during the trifecta. Beyond Ringside Live, the Beyondcast podcast is now up from BR Live. From WrestleRage, great time interviewing Ahmed Johnson, former World Wrestling Federation superstar, came on with us, hour-plus long interview, and trust me, we could have gone a lot longer, and we will in the very near future, guarantee that. From that vantage point, the Midnight Black Mass with Reverend Dan Wilson, really enjoyed the Rev's rant this week. If you have not listened... Oh, and for the record, yes, I really enjoyed the interview with Scott Hudson, too. If you really haven't listened to the Midnight Black Mass, you owe it to yourself to do that. Dan Wilson actually puts a lot of thought into this and cuts no corners. Unabashed, uncensored, unashamed, which is the way a lot of us do things around here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. Sometimes maybe not uncensored, but by the same token. And yes, I've gotten the feedback from some of the things that were said during the Ahmed Johnson interview, and I decided to not go back and fix certain things in post-production. Because to do that would actually be to cheapen the message and the statement that he was trying to put out there. So I'll go ahead and say that one right now. Diving straight into it, this coming Saturday night, Mayweather versus Maidana 2. There are people who are looking at both sides of this coin because a number of the so-called pundits and experts have made comments about the fact that Maidana has given, I'm not saying Madonna, it's Maidana, thank you, gave Floyd Mayweather the fight of his life the first time they met. And from my vantage point, I can agree with that. There is a growing contingent that is sitting back saying that Mayweather may be in trouble this Saturday night. I am very inclined to agree. I am very inclined to agree. Because it may be time. Look, for everybody who has really wanted Mayweather-Pacquiao to take place, yeah, you got about as long to wait as you do for GSP and... You got about as long to wait for that for GSP and Anderson Silva. Sorry, I was having some monitor trouble here in the studio. Live? Yes, very much so. And anything can happen around this place, and we prove it to you every day of the week. Let me go ahead and kill the Powerball window, because I really don't need to be drooling that much more about $127 million. So, the tail of the tape for this coming Saturday night, it's going to be a very weird bird because the pressure's on both sides, more so than ever before. Speaking of the pressure on, the spin doctors come into play today, so to speak, because a lot of people know that there's live WWE broadcast on the network for the next couple of nights. And I'm going to lay this one out there. I love how things can be twisted and turned around, because the words that are coming down the pike are that the Jerry Springer show was one of the most socially active and discussed segments on Raw. The truth be told, people were not happy about it. And I am not going to go into a full-scale tirade. I'm just going to sit back and say this. I changed the channel. I did not watch it through the end. If there are two worse individuals on network television today, or cable, take your pick, than Nikki and Brie Bella, please point them in my direction. I would love to see their work. Nothing could be as bad, as campy, or make for really bad television than the segment did. Jerry Springer did the best he could. But even I gave up. And you're talking to somebody that didn't give up on Impact. I gave it that one final chance when Kurt Angle took over as the director of wrestling operations. So from that vantage point, they can talk about it all they want to. People were talking about it on Twitter and Facebook and da-da-da-da-da. Well, guess what? They were talking about how horrible it was. Please, Vince, Steph, Hunter, even you can't get them over on Raw or SmackDown. I don't care about Total Divas. And Total Divas doesn't care about me because I'm not in the demo. I'm really not. And I have no desire to watch the show. So, basic rule of thumb. No matter how you put things out there, somebody is going to be able to spin it in more ways than one. Moving on. Lo and behold, a lot of you on Facebook and Twitter caught the fact that yesterday was the birthday for tag team partner on Cause and Effect, the host of, as well as tag team partner over on the Saturday Showcase, Robert Cosper, the Cosz. And there is, I'm going to give this Easter egg. There is a video over on YouTube where Cosper and I were having fun with the song The Love Boat, originally done Jack Johnson, the ABC television show. It's gotten a couple of hits, but I haven't made it public. It's now being made public. So when you get a chance to, please take a moment, drop over. One interesting little tidbit of news. It was put out today that Ring of Honor has picked up a syndication deal for television in Metro Atlanta. They're going to be going with My Network TV over on WATL. I do believe, now I haven't lived in Atlanta for a while, but I do believe ATL's 36. It used to be a Fox affiliate in days gone by. So if you get a chance to, for folks in Atlanta, please, when everything comes to fruition, check it out. I finally got a chance to check out the tag team match between the Young Bucks and Addiction, Kazarian and Daniels, from this past weekend's ROH television. Ring of Honor, yet again, has put out tag team gold. Longtime listeners, regular listeners know the fact that, yes, I was all over the War Machine Briscoe match because it was that damn good. And they've had tag team matches in previous weeks which did not let down, which surpassed expectations. And the only reason why I can say surpassed expectations, and this is not a backhanded compliment to ROH. It is never intended to be that way. It blew away anything else on the national television scale as far as tag teams go. Impact is starting to catch up. But they're in the middle of a reorganization and making that last gasp for air. and everybody knows this. There are other promotions out there that are catching exposure, and I'm going to give you the exact time in just a little while, because in a few hours from now, as this show is being done live, 8:13 Central, 9:13 p.m. Eastern, September 9, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood will be coming on MAV TV. Now, I'm going to go ahead and break this one down like this. They have put out a good product. It is fun to watch. It's a little bit stereotypical. They run a number of different prototypes through there as far as the base characters go, but you know something? I'm good with that. They're looking to give something for the audience of their product that everybody can get into, everybody can enjoy, and everybody can make the investment in. There is no spin there. It's straight up. For those who have MAV TV, I wholeheartedly encourage you, please check it out when you get a chance to. Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I've been very excited about a number of the products that have come down the pike. Some not as excited about, but that comes with the territory. It's going to happen that way. Speaking of happening that way, tell you what, we're going to go for a brief break. Back in about 2 and 2. Thank you, Chuck Woolery, wherever you may be. Hang with us on Beyond Ringside, Back to Basics.
This is Country Jack, Corey Hollis, and you are locked in to Beyond Ringside.
Sunday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern here on BeyondRingside.com. Join us for the Midnight Black Mass. Myself, the Reverend Dan Wilson, brings you the dark gospel of professional wrestling, uncensored, unedited, uncut, and not for the faint of heart. You can find out more about us at youtube.com/pottyhumor or subscribe at Potty Humor on iTunes and Stitcher today.
This is Jacoby Boykins, a.k.a. the Alabama Ambassador, Mr. 256, and you are locked in to Beyond Ringside.
Howdy, friends. This is the Magic City Motor Mouth, Fast Eddie Lane, with your invitation to join yours truly, along with Mark Mabo Bowman and the Oracle of Ominous, the Wicked Nemesis, every Sunday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific, for Beyond Ringside Live. Wrestling, mixed martial arts, sports talk, and a whole lot more. Keep your eyes open on BeyondRingside.com for all of upcoming show information, and of course, catch us on social media as well. Until then, we'll see you this Sunday, 6:30 Eastern, for Beyond Ringside Live on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. Making our way back in, I told you it'd be a short one. I didn't lie about that part now. Back to Basics rolls on. Going to be joined in about 14 minutes from right now by Evan Ginsberg. Really looking forward to having some fun on this interview. It's been a while. He and I have had some great exchanges on a number of different topics over on social media, specifically Facebook. Speaking of, thank you to everybody who's been joining us over on Twitter as well as Facebook. Did some checking over on LinkedIn today. God, it's been a while. And very thankful to everybody who has been definitely keeping track of us on all the different sites. Thank you to everybody who has been coming on board with us through Speaker, Spreaker, Spreaker. Go figure. I'm normally the one who actually does pronounce it correct. Made a reference to birthdays a little while ago. David Arquette, 43 years of age. Wow. I wonder if the copy of the belt that he was given for holding the WCW World Heavyweight Championship is anywhere near as old as it might look. I wonder if he still has it. That's a scary thought. Speaking of birthdays, I'm sorry. The only term that I can use for this individual is badass, and that is Pink. A rocker to the nth degree, great performer, great vocalist. If you've never had oh boy, plain and simple. Also, I was taking a look around, and for a lot of kids who grew up in the 80s, Tom Wopat of the Dukes of Hazzard, age 63. Good grief. Speaking of days, or speaking of things that happen on certain days, if you haven't had a chance to catch it, Captain America the Winter Soldier comes out on DVD today, or actually came out earlier today. If you get a chance to check this one out, I've seen it in theaters. It is definitely worth it. The franchise continues. I'm just wondering, I was really happy to see the entire cast of the Avengers at Comic-Con, or the majority of the cast for the Avengers at Comic-Con recently in San Diego. And looking forward to that, definitely. I just wish it wasn't going to be so doggone long before the next movie comes out in the series. A couple of things I want to hit on real quick. Wednesday, September the 10th, Ohio Valley Wrestling at the Davis Arena. 4400 Shepherdsville Road in Louisville, Kentucky. 7 p.m. bell time. Tomorrow, September the 10th, Rockstar Pro Wrestling in Dayton, Ohio. 1106 East 3rd Street, 7 p.m. start. On Thursday, Alpha Omega Wrestling at Soul Sports Restaurant, 44929 1 Grapefruit Boulevard in number 2. It's also Harrison Street in Coachella, California. Also, Thursday, September the 11th, 01 Supreme Pro Wrestling USA at the Fluid Event Center, 601 North County Fair Drive in Champaign, Illinois. Champaign, run it. It's one word. Run it together. Trust me on this. Friday, September the 12th, AIWF Elite Wrestling Alliance, 2508 Glass Street, Chattanooga, Tennessee, 8 p.m. bell time. Once again, that's on Friday, September the 12th. Also, Mid-South Championship Wrestling behind the Sandbar Grill in West Kaiser, Osceola. I know. We did this on the other day. Osceola, Arkansas. Thanks for playing. Also, Friday, September the 12th, Vendetta Pro Wrestling at the Radisson Hotel, 3455 Airport Drive, Santa Maria, California, 7:30 p.m. bell time. With a number of shows on the horizon, you got a lot of good events coming down this week. And matter of fact, let's go ahead and run this. Dojo Wars from Combat Zone Wrestling, Dojo Wars 9, will be tomorrow, September the 10th, 8 p.m. local time at the CZW Academy in Blackwood, New Jersey. 120 Harmon Road, Suite 304 to be exact. 5 matches, $5. Catch the up-and-coming Combat Zone Wrestling trainees take on members of the CZW main roster. Also coming up this weekend, another one to definitely keep your eyes on, Combat Zone Wrestling presents Down with the Sickness, Saturday, September the 13th. They've got great outings on the horizon. You know, I've been riding that train for a while as far as Combat Zone Wrestling because they do a great job providing great entertainment that wrestling fans of all type can enjoy. Plain and simple. And when you get a chance to check out a promotion like that, definitely. WWE Night of Champions, not too far away from this point. 11 days, 22 hours from right now. 8:20 p.m. Central Time. I've been on this kick that the rematch, and this is just me talking, I will never profess to know everything. Oh my God. Somebody who's got a radio show who admits they might actually have, yeah, we're not going to go there. I've been on this kick and I've had the genuine mindset that the rematch between John Cena and Brock Lesnar is happening too soon. I'm standing beside my original comment and I'm not changing that. If they were to play it in a methodology, the way that they're sitting right now, there's no way John Cena gets the WWE World Championship back. No way, no how. I really cannot see that happening. And this is where I'll still be watching it on the network. I got no problem with that. And remember, you can still get WWE pay-per-views through traditional cable pay-per-view outlets. Direct and Dish, forget it. And I still say DirecTV and Dish Network kind of like dropped the ball on that. Maybe since AT&T has picked up DirecTV, I think that's who bought everybody out, they might actually change that, but I doubt it. So for those who have traditional cable, you can still probably get Night of Champions on pay-per-view. But this leads me to where I'm going to put this spin on this particular topic. When it comes down to it and everything is said and done, WWE is notorious for not stacking their top tier. Their upper tier and mid-card and entry level, always solid as a rock. But they don't set things into play where they have more than one franchise face, keyword face, in play. After what happened last night with Roman Reigns, after what has happened recently with Dean Ambrose, you've got Ziggler holding the Intercontinental title. You got Sheamus where you're not sure if he's 100% or not. And the majority of your other characters, heel. Plain and simple. WWE has still yet to put together a top-tier section of the roster. And think about it. Even Cesaro, who would be, I think Cesaro and Lesnar would be a great match. I've said that for a while. And I stand beside that comment. But as far as it goes, and, you know, I'm going to use tomorrow night over on To Be Determined to go a little bit more in depth into Raw. Because I honestly was not a big fan of the way the season premiere of Raw came off. There were some moments here and there. And the word got back to me today. Hey, the numbers went up for the season premiere of Raw. And I'm okay with that. Look, I'm happy for them. But I'm also going to sit back and say, you had 2 NFL football games, one of which was expected to be a little bit more of a blowout than it was. Because I'm sorry, for those who think the New York Giants are going to immediately just jump up and go, roar. No, it ain't going to happen. The Detroit Lions, I had that game called up one side and down the other. I didn't think the margin of victory was going to be as big as it was. But I will say this, I am happy to see that the Giants were able to hold it as close as they did. And then you come back for the San Diego Phoenix game immediately following that. You saw a game where mistakes can dominate a game. Bad play calling, bad execution, poor passing, or the right things occur. Defense steps up. And last night with the Chargers-Cardinals game, that game was fun to watch for the right reasons, multiple reasons. So for the opening Monday night stanza for Monday Night Football, the double shot, which is what a lot of people probably had to drink after the games were over with, put the world in proper perspective. Raw's viewership was up. Monday Night Football held close. You have a lot of people who are starting to come back to Monday Night Raw, and I'm glad to hear that. But I'm going to wrap up this segment with one particular statement. Everybody talks about the way things go with the nationally televised product and the oversaturation that is WWE. I'm one of the first ones to agree. But if they're going to continue to run as many hours of live and national or viewable programming, original programming that they do, WWE has to do a better job of putting things together to establish and build top-tier talent in the eventuality that something occurs. You can't plan for injuries. No one can. But what you can do is have a contingency plan. Look, I popped big time from this past Friday's SmackDown. And for some reason, and this is the part that I get heat about every once in a while, I get flack about this. There are times when SmackDown has a better feel and flow than Raw does. A lot of people think it's due to the fact that SmackDown is 2 hours. A lot of people think that since SmackDown is the junior product or the junior brand, which there are times when SmackDown has better ratings per capita than Raw. But putting the world in proper perspective, I ask the question, is it genuinely time for Monday Night Raw to be dropped back to 2 hours? I will say the same thing now that I've said for the last year. Yes. For the love of God, yes. It takes the pressure off your creative team. It takes the pressure off your writing. It takes the pressure off your agents. And most importantly, it takes the pressure off of your roster. you have in any given show 3 hours, 10 minutes. Take out for commercial times. So that's going to leave you approximately 48 minutes per hour. And this is the same argument that I have as it pertains to Impact Wrestling. There are times when you have way too much talk and not enough being said, when you could be speaking loud and clear inside the ring. Promos are needed. Promos are necessary. But when they serve no purpose, the purpose that ends up being served is the factor of people lose attention. Their attention level drops. That is the easy way to say it. So yes, I will sit back and say the same thing now that I've said for the last year. It is time for WWE to take Monday Night Raw, and I know this is a horrible time to do it because of the factor of the financial difficulties, and I respect those. Trust me, I understand that. But for the good of the product, my personal opinion is to drop it back to 2 hours. Take the roster, set everything up to where you can genuinely run a smooth live 2-hour broadcast. The rumor was out there that, sorry about that. The rumor was out there that WWE was going to start doing the super shows again. If you take Raw, logistically drop it back to 2 hours and start doing the super shows. Raw live, SmackDown taped Monday night. Yeah, it's going to be a stretch for the fans in attendance. That's given. It's going to be a stretch for the stars to tape 2 shows in one night or do 2 shows in one night. But until they can get the world reset the way it needs to be, yes, I think that would be the perfect idea, taking it back to a 2-hour run. Folks, tell you what, going to go to the bottom of the hour break. Back in 5. Thanks for hanging on Beyond Ringside. Back to basics.
This is Bullet Bob Armstrong. I'm Southern born, Southern bred, and I never miss Beyond Ringside.
Howdy, friends. This is the Magic City Motor Mouth, Fast Eddie Lane.
And I'm the Cosz, Robert Cosper.
And this is your invitation to join us
and the Hitman, Big Daddy Cool, Ryan Adcock, right here for the Saturday Showcase.
At Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10, 9, 8 a.m. Pacific time. See? We do math around this place. Be sure to catch us right here on BeyondRingside.com. You can also listen through WinAmp for Android and BlackBerry, as well as the Shoutcast mobile app for Apple as well. Remember, that's Saturday mornings, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, right here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network.
And let me tell you how you can find the Hitman, Big Daddy Cool, Ryan Adcock on social media. It's very easy. It's at www.kissmyass.
Whoa. Stop that right there. Folks, we'll see you Saturday on the Showcase. Bye for now.
This is Dale the Demon Torborg, and you're locked in to Beyond Ringside.
On what has turned out to be a beautiful Tuesday night, 22 before the top of the hour on this 9th day of September. Live from Studio 1 in a multiple location station. And this one, I would dare almost say North and South come together in true style on this. Welcome into Beyond Ringside, back to basics. Ready to have a little fun? Thank you to everybody listening in through TuneIn Radio and the TuneIn Radio app. And of course, through Shoutcast, through WinAmp, and through BeyondRingside.com. You know, there are people who genuinely understand and appreciate the term polyamory, which the clinical definition is many loves. And my guest at this time for the Tuesday night conversation, a couple of those loves would happen to be broadcasting, would be pro wrestling, would be entertainment. He is the host of Legends Radio, the host of Legends TV, the associate producer of the Hollywood hit The Wrestler, the producer of a number of different film documentaries, a publicist, a publisher, a booking agent, an MC. Evan Ginsberg, welcome to Beyond Ringside, back to basics. Glad to have you on board tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for that nice intro. I really do appreciate it.
Is there a hat that you have not worn in the entertainment industry?
Yeah, I've never done porn, although I have friends in the industry. That's one hat I've never worn.
You know, a lot of people have asked me, it's like, well, how many questions are you going to ask him about the wrestler? And the thing about it is, this has clicked in my brain for the last few days. I can't think of a question that you might not have been asked as it pertained to that particular movie. So I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to turn it back in your direction. Out of the interviews and the press that you did leading into that, was there a question that you weren't asked that you thought was going to be, that you thought you were going to get hit with?
They always ask me, is there going to be a sequel? Yeah, you get a lot of the same questions. As far as one that has never been asked, you know what they never ask? They never ask about who were the guys in the autograph scene, because they look like old wrestlers, and nobody ever asks who they actually were, and people are surprised when I tell them. One was Johnny Valiant, who spent much of his time with his head down sleeping. One was Manny Yarborough, the sumo, and all those other guys were actually actors playing wrestlers. And so that's never been asked for some reason. And what's interesting about that scene is I told Darren Aronofsky over and over again, I said, let's get Jimmy Valiant. Let's get Lou Albano, who was alive at the time. Let's get... Nikolai. Let's get Iron Sheik. Let's get all these guys for this Legends convention, and it'll be really tragic that nobody, is there. And Darren said, look, let me think about it. Finally, he said no, because Mickey would have looked like, what's wrong with this picture? He would have looked like the guy that didn't belong. That's what Darren explained to me. So except for Johnny Valiant, who was sleeping through much of that scene, there weren't any legendary wrestlers there.
I have a signature question that I like to ask all of our dignitaries who come on for interviews and to sit down for the conversation, because everybody always has a unique perspective and an answer to it. For me, there's always two moments as it pertains to pro wrestling itself. Number one is the moment you become a fan of pro wrestling. Number two is the moment where the little light bulb goes on and you say, this is more than me being a fan. This is something that I really want to get a lot more involved in. And for you, Evan Ginsberg, what are those two moments?
I was a kid in the 1970s, and some of you are too young to even remember this. We had what was called UHF, the UHF dial.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the secondary channels, okay? So I'm flipping the UHF dials, and all of a sudden there's the WWF TV tapings out of Hamburg, Pennsylvania, and Chief Jay Strongbow is getting pounded on by God knows who, and I'm watching this, and I literally didn't know what it was. I actually, what is this? So Strongbow's getting pounded. All of a sudden, he does this herky-jerky war dance of sorts and pins the guy, and I'm like, wow, that was great. And I start watching this, there's these larger-than-life. I was a big comic book fan when I was a kid, and
really?
You had Ernie Ladd and Superstar Billy Graham and Ivan Koloff, and these guys were like super villains come to life. And then you had Bruno and Strongbow and Monsoon, and these were like superheroes come to life. And I was hooked just watching it on TV. And then I discovered the California tapings on the Spanish-speaking network out of the Olympic Auditorium. Then I found the Florida, tapings Tuesday nights at 11 or 11:30, and I begged my parents, please let me stay up. And there's Harley Race and Jack Briscoe and Terry Funk and Dory Funk and the Assassins, and and it was just like I had discovered this world, and then finally I saw it live, and it was just magic. And I've been going to wrestling literally 40 years. My first show was June of 1974. So if you do the math, I'm 103 years old, and so what happened was the second part of your question was I was working as a school teacher, and all of a sudden I was unemployed. I just got tired of teaching kids, miserable principal, low salary, tough bottom sixth grade class. I was out of work, and I was kind of lost, and I started doing this wrestling newsletter. Back then, you had tons of sheets before the internet.
Right.
And, and from there, I kind of branched out, and this radio station in New York invited me on to do a wrestling segment, and from there I started booking wrestlers, and one thing always leads to another. It's like Jim Cornette and Paulie Dangerously and all these guys, they Paul Heyman, they kind of get their foot wet, and it just develops into other things, because when you're surrounded by something and you're passionate about it and you're good with networking and you see opportunities and you take it, stuff just happens. And in the wrestling business, some of the stuff is great and some of the stuff is absolutely tragic.
And you lead me to this one perfectly, because as two people who have watched it since single-digit ages all the way through the current-day product in one capacity or another, if I bring up the words honor, tradition, and respect as it pertains to pro wrestling, what goes through your head?
Few and far between. I think if you talk to some old school guys, and I'll tell you my friends in the business, and this isn't name dropping, because Nikolai Volkov, you could do business on a handshake. Lanny Poffo, business on a handshake. Prompt, reliable, honest to the penny. Hold my wallet.
Yeah.
Lanny will go in the ring. Evan, hold my wallet. This is how much we trust each other. Jimmy Valiant, et cetera, so on. And you realize there are some people, it's just a phone call. Such and such a time, such and such a place, this is what you'll get paid, done deal, boom, no contract. So there is honor, there is respect. I think Ring of Honor carries on the tradition that, I grew up with. Basically, they come out and they wrestle and they give 110%, and I'm a big Ring of Honor fan, and a lot of the Japanese promotions today still carry on that tradition. I just find it very disillusioning when I watch WWE or TNA, and it's too much shtick, too much bad comedy, too much stilted dialogue, too much nonsense. You have two of the greatest talent bases in the history of the business, WWE and TNA, and you just go, let them wrestle. Just let them wrestle.
You sound like someone who genuinely can appreciate the gravity of the term, the art of the promo.
Oh, yeah. The Valiant brothers, who I'm friends with, they would go into the TV studio and they would be told, okay, September 20th, Philadelphia Spectrum, you're wrestling Bruno and Strongbow. Boom. Then they just cut promos off the top of their heads. Okay, September 21st, Philadelphia Spectrum, Tony Gurria and Dean Ho. Boom. And they would just do this all day.
Yeah.
It's basically improv. It's comedy. It's art. And I had this conversation the other day. I forget with who, but some of the greatest heels in the history of the business were funny. They were funny. Roddy Piper, Don Morocco, the Valiant brothers, even Ric Flair. A lot of his shtick was funny.
Yeah.
And Morocco is just hilarious. I mean, if you listen to Lou Albano, Fred Blassie, John Tolis, these guys, it's like you wanted to kill them, but at the same time they made you laugh.
Yes, that's true.
Weird combination. Yeah.
Now, as far as the differences coming up, for me personally, I first found out about WWF World Wrestling Federation, when Vince Sr. was still running it, Bob Backlund was the main champion. Tony,
Right.
I think Pedro Morales was one of the main fixtures as far as the Intercontinental strap. Tony Gurria, Rick Martel, along with the Moondogs.
I went through that era also, yeah.
Yeah, and then also on my side of the coin with the advent of cable with Georgia Championship Wrestling, people like Tommy Rich, Junkyard Dog, Mr. Wrestling 2, the Masked Superstar, all the different stars of the Southern promotions. How much were you able to discern the difference between the Northern style and the Southern, the traditional Southern wrestling, as it's called?
Well, I've lived in New York my whole life, so we would go to Philly every month to see the NWA. I mean, we saw all those guys month in and month out. And, you know, my interest in WWF really, you know, sort of fell by the wayside after, like, 1985. I mean, you know, Piper and Snooker was great, and Slaughter and the Iron Sheik was great. But after that, it got kind of cartoonish and for kids. And I was a big NWA fan, and later an ECW fan, and later a Ring of Honor fan. And, you know, I think wrestling, you know, the purists, the old school fans who, you know, it's crap now and it was great then, I think they're kind of missing the point. If you pick and choose, there's still some excellent wrestling out there. Even WWE, when they let them wrestle, that's SummerSlam was not a bad pay-per-view by any means.
No.
You know, you got to give credit where it's due also. I'm the first one to criticize WWE when it gets too circus-like, but I'll tell you, the Shield, all three of those guys, even though they've broken up at this point, I mean, those guys are tremendous, absolutely tremendous. And Daniel Bryan, of course, and Cesaro, and, you know, CM Punk before he left. You know, it's not a wasteland. It's just, unfortunately, in a 3-hour TV show, if you TiVo it, maybe it's good for 30 minutes. But that 30 minutes, you know, they're doing moves that guys 40 years ago couldn't have dreamed of for the most part.
Right. Oh, no, I understand that completely. Then I can lay this one out there for you. Your personal, everybody talks about favorite this and top 10s and da-da-da-da-da, but for you, who would you put on your personal Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling?
Does that mean 5 guys? Or
I think it was. I think it's still 4.
To me, the greatest tag team that I ever saw by far was the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette. I mean, they elevated wrestling tag team to an art form. Just, you know, tremendous. I never saw those guys have anything less than a very good match and usually a great match. I mean, the Midnight Express were my all-time favorites. From the heart, of course, I would say Bruno growing up in New York. As far as charisma, superstar Billy Graham. As far as craziness, Terry Funk. I mean, you can never get tired of watching that guy, even today. Trying to think. I love Morocco. Morocco is a heel. He was as great as anybody. And Piper in his prime. You know, a lot of these guys, Flair in his prime, a lot of these guys stuck around way, way too long. So, you know, Flair should have quit after the Vader match 20 years ago. Because Flair, when he was younger, you know, he's just great. And what Flair could do that a Backlund couldn't do, and again, I grew up in New York with Backlund, Flair could wrestle anybody and have an excellent match. Backlund was as good as his opponent. When Backlund fought an Ivan Koloff or a Pat Patterson or somebody great, and Adrian Adonis when he was thinner, you know, he could have a tremendous match. When Backlund fought somebody that was just so-so, you know, you know what was interesting during Backlund's reign? Like you mentioned, the Intercontinental belt actually meant a lot back then. That was a huge part of the draw. Morocco, Patera, Patterson, Morales. I mean, whoever was holding it at the Slaughter. You know, these guys. It really meant something back then.
And I think that's one of the things that has always kept my attention, because the pressure of putting the main strap on somebody, of course, is immeasurable to a great degree, because that's the person you're counting on to be the franchise of the company. But yet, when you've got a secondary strap, like in the NWA, back in the Crockett era, you've got the World Television title and you've got the United States Championship, which people used to put neck and neck, hand in hand, depending on who was holding it. Because it was both of those belts were looked at as the stepping stones. It's like, here's your grooming tool. How well can you carry this? How well can you make this credible? And then if you could, you can move to that top tier. Whether or not you get the main strap or not depends on situations in play from the front office. Board control titles, what can you say? But if you can make these belts, if you can get the people who follow this product to care about you as a champion, you've done something.
You know, Hogan, everybody said what a huge draw he was, but what they forget is he would come into Madison Square Garden maybe 4 times a year, whereas Bruno would come in every month. Backlund would come in every single month. And, you know, sure, Hogan would come in those 3, 4, 5 times a year, and then the place would be jammed, and it was a big deal. But the secondary champions, like, for example, Hogan could be in California, and there Tito Santana and Greg Valentine would be wrestling in the main event for the Intercontinental belt and sell the place out.
Right.
Because it meant something, and they were great when they were younger. And, you know, titles back then meant something. Like, the Valiant Brothers held the title 14 months, so it was a big deal when they lost it. Ring of Honor gets that. Generally, their guys will hold the belt for a long time, so when they lose it, it's generally a big deal. It's you know, when I listen to WWE TV and they'll go, so and so has held the title 12 times, and I go, I don't remember one match where they won or lost that belt. That's how meaningless it is. And I could tell you the date that Billy Graham won the belt back, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
It just, it's lost its meaning. Lost its meaning.
Then let me put this one to you, and I'm going to segue after this one. They talk about John Cena as the greatest WWE champion, sitting at 15 title runs with that title. And yet a lot of people are getting up in arms about the factor that Cena may pick up a 16th title to technically tie him with Flair. Does that hold water with you?
It's meaningless. I mean, first of all, if they wanted to give the belt to Flair 32 times, they could have.
True.
So you can't really. First of all, with Cena, during his entire run, there were always 2 belts. So
right.
To me, each belt had half the value. Maybe I'm crazy, but you follow what I'm saying? If you had the SmackDown belt and the Raw belt or whatever, it's just, I don't know. I didn't see either of them meaning as much as back when you had one world champion. In recent times, they seem to have alleviated that. Lesnar has both the belts, or whatever the case may be. There's one champion, and you take it a little more seriously. But the Intercontinental belt's just like a farce today. I mean, it's like a piece of luggage. I mean, does anybody care about it at this point?
I think with the with Dolph Ziggler holding that belt, who is a tremendous fan favorite, even when he's working heel. I mean, people love to hate him and hate. I mean, people love to love him and love to hate him all at the same time. And with somebody like him holding that title, I think it actually adds a little bit more luster back to that belt.
I saw Dolph Ziggler wrestle Cena in the main event at the Garden in a cage match, and technically the guy is, totally proficient. And I enjoy watching him, but he's not the most charismatic guy in the world. And as a heel, you kind of watch him and you go, he looks like a nice guy. It's like like Lesnar looks like the school bully. He looks like the guy who would steal your lunch money. He's a legitimate heel.
Yeah.
You really don't like this guy.
Understand the concept completely.
No, seriously. I mean, I could, it's almost like suspension of disbelief, but I could watch Lesnar and go, I wouldn't want to hang out with this guy. This guy doesn't look like a pleasant guy. Whereas Ziggler, he could be doing every heel move in the book. He looks like a sweet guy. I'd hang out with him. I'd have a beer with this guy.
Yeah.
You follow it? So maybe some guys just aren't cut out to be heels.
And yeah, that's something that we've talked about on this network, on the family of shows, because there are people who genuinely can fall into the classification of pure heel and others who fall into the classification of pure babyface. And it's like there's times when you force that person, it really seems forced when a person takes on that role. I had the same situation with the promotions with which I work down here in Alabama in the southeastern U.S. It's like there's people that you can put that franchise heel tag on, and there's others it's like they're just not hating you. And there's a difference between, in my book, pure heel and what's called the cool heel.
You want to know something? I had Pitbull Gary Wolf from ECW on my TV show a few weeks back, and he was wrestling Jason Knight, and it just occurred to me while I was interviewing him, I said, who's the heel tonight, and does it even matter in 2014? And he was like, I don't know who the heel is. I guess we'll see when we get there. I don't think it really matters as much. I think the fans like, the tweener, I don't think it's as big an issue.
I think in this day and age, because of the fact that the lines have become so blurred on the social scene, whether it be through the abuse and addiction of social media or the way television and movies and music portray lifestyles and culture, I think that the lines have become so blurred that everybody's fighting for their own identity now, and everybody's still kind of curious about where we all fit in at any particular point in time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The anti-hero, yeah.
And, a lot of people sit back and go, well, how did we arrive at this point? Easy. Put down the remote control sometimes and you'll figure out exactly what's going on around you. And, we're going to hit a little bit of a, you and I have had some great discourse. Here comes your segue of the night, kids. You and I have had some great discourse over on social media. And there was a statement that you put out as far as it pertained to trying to have a rational, reasonable debate as it pertains to politics and social issues on social media. And I appreciate the comment that you put out there, and I think you might remember what I came back and said in retort, because if there is anything that is the antithesis of the name, if there's a paradigm in play, it's calling it social media.
Oh, absolutely. They've done studies that say that people will type something on Facebook or social media in general that they would never say face-to-face. Because when you're talking to somebody face-to-face, there's always that pause button. Why? Well, if the guy's bigger than you, he might beat you up. If the guy's smaller than you, you might feel like a bully or you're hurting his feelings or whatever the case may be. But when you're behind the keyboard, they've actually done studies. People can be meaner. It's almost like taking on a different identity.
Right.
Like, it would take an awful lot for me to say face-to-face, you're an idiot. Whereas on social media, you're not seeing the guy, and you just go, oh, you're an idiot, and then you move on to the next victim or whatever, whoever else you're debating with. And I find I've seriously tried to cut down on this, because I think 19 out of 20 times people, don't budge an inch, and it gets ugly, and people lose friends and unfriend, and then the irony of all of this is I'll go down to the indie wrestling show, and I'll see the guy I was fighting, politics with or whatever, and we'll kind of smile at each other, go over, shake each other's hand, and go, listen, man, I'm really sorry, it got out of hand. And you remember why you liked the person in the first place. And, many times there's no room to budge. I'll give you a 30-second version because I know it's a wrestling show and I don't want to go too off topic. Two guys argue about hunting. The one guy says, you're a coward, you're shooting Bambi from afar, and the other guy goes, I'm a sportsman, and the poor animal would starve to death and die a horrible death. So there's nowhere to go with this. Both of them are so 100% sure of their position that, it's not going to lead to anything except bad feelings And, it gets very ugly out there, very ugly. I mean, religion, they say don't argue politics and religion. If you think the world is 6,000 years old and somebody else says that's absolute nonsense, there's nowhere to go with that. The one guy's going to believe what he believes, the other guy's going to be sure of what he says, and there's nowhere to go.
And I think because the lines have been drawn and everybody has taken their own refuge in opinion and commentary, regardless of the nature, that I think we've forgotten how to open our minds and expand our horizons. We talk about it's like, well, I'm seeing all this great stuff on Facebook. No, you're seeing some stupid cat pictures. Come on. I mean, if people actually really okay, I can't say everybody doesn't, but I can't say nobody does. There are very few people who genuinely put genuinely substantial statistical posts up on social media.
The problem with statistics is, okay, let's say a teacher is teaching adults to get their high school equivalency diploma.
Okay.
Two out of three of the students pass the test. So somebody that's pro-teacher is going to go, 66.6% of these students passed. This is a wonderful educator and a wonderful program.
Right.
Somebody who's anti-teacher is going to go, 33.3% of those students failed. This guy is a horrible teacher, and the program should be shut down. This is the problem with statistics. And the other issue is people, they just don't. They believe what they believe. They don't even want to read the statistics. So it's statistics can be tough. What I find inspirational with Facebook or social media in general is you'll take somebody who's a self-made person, who's really put all the pieces together, who's built something from the ground up, who's positive, inspiring. And, sometimes, people just give out wisdom, very, for example, surround yourself with positive, supportive, professional, prompt people who care about you, who you would leave your wallet out on the table and not worry that they're going to steal from you. You could leave your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife in the room with them, and they're not going to hit on them. In other words, sometimes very simple wisdom, works. And
it does.
And you see a lot of that on Facebook, along with the pictures of the kittens, and the same guy puts 800 pictures of his baby. But sometimes there actually is something worthwhile on Facebook.
Well, I'm the one who started using the phrase, and I have to admit that I kind of hijacked the quote. It's like, it's not that my glass is half empty. It's not that my glass is half full. It's the fact that my glass is twice as big as it needs to be.
Okay.
So I let people use the math equation. It's like, well, wait a minute, he's saying that the glass is the wrong size, but everything else fits into place. Yes, that's it. Thanks for playing. And
yeah.
I'm making the reference to stats a minute ago, and you brought up a great analogy as far as the teaching profession goes. I would be one of the ones who would actually dig a little bit deeper and go, okay, the subject matter was this, the grade point, the logical learning curve is this. These two people are people who have this in their background, so therefore they're going to do a little bit better. The other person may not be so intent and drawn in and magnetized to the subject matter, so they didn't give it 100%. So I'm going to sit back and say you've got to take everything on a case-by-case basis. But
absolutely.
But not everybody does that.
Yeah, I mean, people learn differently, and testing isn't the be-all and end-all either.
Right.
You certainly can't judge a teacher on the test scores all the time, because some students have terrible problems or learning disabilities, and it always still comes down to people have to respect each other.
Thank you.
And we've gotten away from the basics. I tell all the time on my TV show, I tell parents, take your kid by the hand. Take your kid to see live music. Take your kid to museums. Take your kid to live theater. Don't let the TV, don't let the computer, don't let the video games be the babysitter. And, if you talk to any wrestling fan, 19 out of 20 times they're going to say, my greatest childhood memories was going to wrestling with my mom, my dad, my grandfather, whoever the kid, my uncle, whoever the case may be. And now they're gone, and I remember, seeing so-and-so back at the old armory. And, sometimes you just have to get people out into the real world, get them away from the TV and the computer and experience live things and experience different people. It's like people, every race, creed, color, every age, every demographic, and learn about the world, not just whether you're right wing or left wing. If you're only getting one news source, you're kind of seeing the world in one way, and it's more complicated than that.
Oh, it's much more complicated than that. But there is one thing I would like to say I'm not necessarily face-to-face, because that's impossible unless we're doing Skype chat, but I'd like to say it person-to-person. Logistically speaking, you and I are on technically different sides of the aisle, so to speak, but you know something? It's always great to be able to read and see what someone who can approach a political discussion with an open mind, using linear logical thought, such as yourself does. And I do appreciate the post that you had been putting out there, because even though we're not, like I said, the fence is there, or however you want to put it, that's great and wonderful. You can use whatever analogy you want to as far as our sides of the aisle, but I can appreciate someone who will say what they want to say in the manner in which they want to say it and just let it rip. And I appreciate people like you who can do that.
Oh, thank you. What I find very interesting, I'm left wing, as probably a lot of you can tell. A lot of my right wing friends, the bond has become even stronger, because you say, you know what, I see the world differently. Whether it's politics, religion, whatever the case may be, I see the world really differently, but I like this person. I respect this person. This person's an honorable person. This person is going to be my friend no matter what. And I have many Republican friends like that. What's very hurtful is every so often someone cannot be your friend because you see the world differently. Like, they'll actually say that to you. And that I think is a little ridiculous. But unfortunately, that's whether you're a Republican or Democrat, it doesn't make you a bad person or a good person. It's just your the way you lean politically.
And it's part of what makes up who we are. And there are some people who could give a rat's backside about politics, just like there's people who give a rat's backside about religion one way or the other. And the thing about it is, in this day and age, we've got to be able to help everybody understand that there's more than just one side to an argument, and we can always convey that in a manner to where they're going to sit back and go, you know something? I didn't think about that. It's kind of like, you've got people that, and here comes your segue back, you've got people who are sitting back going, well, Stone Cold was the best Attitude Era star. No, The Rock was the best Attitude Era star. And I've seen people get into verbal, they're ready to go to blows over this. And it's
apples and oranges.
Yeah.
I mean, what they did was so different, but they were both great at what they did. And whether you were, a big fan of the particular character or not, you still had to respect how good they were and how popular they were. Can't take that away from them.
Oh, no. Now, you made a reference to having Gary on with you earlier as far as the television show goes. Now, you also, with Legends Radio first, with Legend, by the way, let me do a reset real quick. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm listening to Beyond Ringside Back to Basics. It's 14 minutes after the top of the hour on this Tuesday night edition, September 9, 2014. Fast Eddie Lane live from Studio One, being joined by very special guest Evan Ginsberg tonight on the Tuesday Night Conversation. And we've had a great time discussing a little bit of everything, especially in the world of pro wrestling, past and present. And this leads me to one of the subjects that I really wanted to hit on. Off air, I confided in you that over the course of the last few days, since you and I had started speaking about you coming on tonight, I'd had so many different questions, but when it came time to put pen to paper, that my brain would go poof, blank, gone, bye, see ya, aloha. which Hawaii sounds like a really good thing right now. And you told me that there are times, the majority of the time, that you and I both wing it to a great degree when it comes to radio and to interviews.
Absolutely. I do live TV. I mean, live. It's like the 1950s. You know, the cameras are rolling, and whatever works. And if there's tech glitches, there are tech glitches, and that's that. And I don't have, except for maybe a plug, or if it's somebody who has a difficult name to pronounce. But I don't have a single question in front of me. And generally, I just find it's more. You see, the first thing I learned, I was on a 50,000-watt radio station out of New York for 16 years, WBAI-FM, and my radio mentor, Fred Giabold, what he taught me was it's really 80% the guest and 20% the host.
Right.
Guys like Howard Stern have flipped that entirely. They've totally flipped that. So you don't really have to have a million questions. The trick is to ask something interesting enough where the guest is going to, you know, really pour his or her heart out and be honest and open and entertaining, and it's almost like a job interview, which should be a back and forth conversation where two people respect each other, as opposed to, you know, you're not grilling the person. It's not a police interrogation. Yeah, you know, there are different styles of interviewing, and Howard Stern's made billions, literally billions of dollars doing it his way, so maybe what I'm saying is passé, but that's the way I've always been taught.
Well, see, I've had a chance to listen to some of the different Legends radio broadcasts, and I really enjoy them because you go in so many different directions, and you and I have that same respect and admiration for music, especially, I want to say, flashback Motown. There are so many things that in today's music, if it's not sampled in a 3-second sample in a 3-minute and 17-second song, it's lost and gone and never thought of. And yeah, really, because there's every once in a while you'll hear a sample of a song from days gone by and you go, they didn't forget. When it comes to music in that particular regard and you hear some of the modern day product, do you ever wonder how in the hell did we get here?
You want to know something? You again, psychologically, emotionally, you always go back to your childhood. You love what you did, what you heard as a kid, as a teenager. But I deal with so many incredible indie musicians, and I never like to make blanket statements like, you know, people say something just stupid like rap is crap, which is ridiculous. There's quality rap and there's commercial, you know, sexist, homophobic, you know, negative rap as well. I mean, I find even with R&B, obviously the golden age of R&B was the 60s and the 70s, and it's not quite what it was. But if you pick and choose, there are people like Maxwell, Jill Scott, Music Soul Child, Raheem DeVaughn. There's plenty of quality R&B singers out there, but it's just not what it was back in the day. But there's always going to be great music. You almost have to look for it.
Yeah.
Today, every third musician has a studio in his or her house, and they're producing themselves and producing other people, and the equipment is much cheaper, which makes it more accessible. But it's also like a needle in the haystack, you know. But there's plenty of great music out there. I mean, no doubt.
Now, I know that being in New York, you get so many different styles thrown at you, especially on the indie scene, because you've got people who have different influences, different backgrounds, and different perspectives. And I mean, I'm ultimately jealous in that particular regard. When I lived in Atlanta back in the early 90s, I had a chance to be immersed in some blooming styles that were just really coming onto the scene. And, of course, I had a couple of places that I would go hide that were, you know, one of them was called Blues Harbor and the other was Blues Alley. And, of course, I'm traditional blues in that particular regard. It's be nice, quiet cup of coffee and just listen to the jam session. do you still? I know it's a dumb question, but as far as the indie scene goes, how diverse is it genuinely up there?
It still leans more towards the kids because, you know, the young people will go out to the clubs more often. But if you really follow it closely, there's pockets of everything. I mean, there's an indie hip-hop scene, there's an indie blues scene, there's an indie jazz scene. I mean, New York has everything, and especially from Memorial Day to Labor Day, there's literally hundreds of free concerts. I mean, world-class musicians constantly performing. I mean, I'll go to see 25 concerts every summer, basically. There's just a wealth of music out there, but I think it leans more towards rock just because it's a younger audience, and hip-hop because it's commercial. But some of the club owners are a little leery of having hip-hop. They're concerned anytime there's a shooting or something. But I booked the club for 4 years. I was a club booker, and we had hip-hop every Tuesday night for several months. We never had one problem.
Nice.
Never one fight, never, so I think many times music gets a bad reputation because the one bad incident scares everybody off. And, I find that the indie hip-hop audience in New York is, very sophisticated, eclectic. I think they get a bad reputation because of the geniuses who, the guys on top who are shooting each other and throwing $2,000 bottles at each other's heads in clubs. These guys give the poor indie musicians who are starving to survive a bad name.
I understand
it's really
that.
Not fair.
Yeah, we get that down here in the southeastern U.S. also. See, folks, for those listening out on the West Coast, there's a lot to be said between the similarities between the North and the South. You may now laugh. And now, as far as the television product, you say that it's live every time. And when it comes to setting things up, the dumb question on this topic is there a situation that comes into play where you just sit back and go, I really want this to work, but I've got a hunch it won't?
Basically, radio or TV is a blank canvas, no matter what the time frame. I do a 90-minute TV show, minus commercials. So, let's say 75 minutes or whatever. So, you have to fill that 75 minutes. And you have musicians sitting there. You have wrestlers sitting there. You have writers sitting there. You have whoever your guests are that day. And I basically do it just like the radio. It's this weird mix. The other week we had a rapper, a ring announcer, a wrestler, and a poet, sitting on the same couch together. You would never see a 300-pound wrestler missing several teeth sitting next to a published poet. And I'm like, this is interesting. Let's try it. And so we make it work somehow. And like I grew up on Ed Sullivan and Joe Franklin and guys like that who Joe Franklin, I don't know if you know him out there, but in the New York area, he was a legend. He's pushing 90. He's still out there doing radio.
Really?
Joe Franklin would have like Lou Albano and the Valiants sitting next to the Ramones, and
Nice.
Somehow it would work. You have all these colorful, wild people sitting together, and this is what I learned from over the years. And as a talk show host, really the only issue comes in when somebody's late or somebody no shows, and
right.
you're kind of like, well,
scramble.
I'm not quite sure what to do because this guy could walk in the door in 2 minutes and I'm in the middle of something else. So other than that, it's a lot of fun. It's like walking a tightrope. You roll with the punches and you make it work, and it's like anything else. One show's better than the other, and it's not life or death. Nobody died, and you do it again the next week.
I've got to ask this because for everybody who works behind a microphone, there's always that one. Is there one person, whether it be on the television or the radio product, that you just weren't sure about And if you want to call names, that's fine. If you don't want to, if you want to protect the innocent, that's fine too. Who was that one person or that one circumstance where it's like, I'm really not sure how this is going to fly, and then lo and behold, kaboom, everything just fell into place, and it's like, that went a lot better than I thought.
Well, we had this conversation, off air earlier. What I find interesting is you could have a childhood hero, and you're going, wow, I'm going to talk. Like, I'll give you an example. Lou Albano, I knew personally, and I loved the guy. I just loved the guy. We were on the road, and the guy was a blast. He was funny. He was a good-hearted guy. But when you interviewed him, a lot of it was kayfabe. He was just from that era, you know. He just he wasn't as open as you would have liked him to have been, and so, which leads to the opposite. Sometimes you'll interview somebody who you really were not a big fan of, and we both, we were talking about various wrestlers. And one guy that came to mind for me was Ahmed Johnson. I was never a big fan. And I'm interviewing the guy, and the guy's tremendous. Yeah. Absolutely tremendous.
Exactly.
Honest, open, I'm like, wow, where did this come from? So, sometimes your own personal tastes mean nothing because it's live, it's an interview. Maybe they're tired, maybe they're sick, maybe they're in a great mood, maybe they're more open tonight. It's, sometimes it hits and sometimes it's so-so, and, you never really know. I've had old school wrestlers who I loved as a kid, and they were like sleepy and tired because they're old now.
Yeah.
And it didn't have any energy. And you go, wow, that was disappointing. I mean, I love watching them 30 years ago, but talking to them wasn't so great. So,
and it's like for us.
Know.
It's like for us over here on the Beyond Ringside family of shows, we like to bring in some of the up-and-coming guys and girls. I mean, and you want to give them that platform to really give an opportunity to shine and tell people about themselves. And that way the people hopefully take the time, either watch them in person or watch the videos on YouTube or some of the other social sites out there that run videos. And this is something I'm going to ask. I've always been an admirer of the art of cutting a promo, and there are a lot of people who come up through the ranks these days who aren't shown the right way to do it. Is cutting a genuine promo, in your opinion, a lost art?
I wouldn't say it's a lost art, but I would say that they don't have the opportunity like they used to. Even WWE, it's all scripted. In the old days, they would improv it. So, how do you develop something if you don't have a real opportunity? If they hand you something on a piece of paper that's stilted, wooden, unnatural, and, sometimes I listen to some of these promos, or they're building up to the next meaningless pay-per-view, and they're saying words. It's just brutal. It's like they're pushing Roman Reigns to the hilt. He's no talker. I mean, believe me, this guy's no talker. But Ambrose could talk his ass off.
Yeah,
the guy's a great talker.
True.
So maybe they're pushing the wrong guy. Because to me, you have to sell tickets. How do you sell tickets? You get on the mic and you talk the fans into the arena.
I have just realized that an hour has gone by, and first off, I want to thank you for being so generous with your time. I've had a blast doing this. I wanted to give you a little bit more of an ample opportunity for those who haven't heard about it and had a chance to experience. If you would, let them know a little bit about Legends Radio.
Oh, thank you. Legends Radio, legendsradio.net, and on any given show, we'll have comedians, wrestlers, musicians. It's a crazy mishmash, and the same thing with Legends TV, legendstvnyc.com, and for the wrestling fans out there, we've had Nicole Bass, Lanny Poffo, tons of indie wrestlers, Pitbull, Gary Wolf, we did Q-Ball Carmichael, who's a big presence on the internet, and even with that, like we'll have Q-Ball Carmichael on stage with like a Latin jazz band. We just have a good time, and I think you'll enjoy it. Check out the archives, legendstvnyc.com. Check out Cue Ball Carmichael on stage with percussion instruments. This you're never going to see in a wrestling arena. So,
we just recently did an interview with Cue Ball about a month ago, and he did not bring this up. I'm going to have to give him a message and say, dude, you should have talked about this.
Yeah. He's a great example of how to use the internet.
Yes.
Okay. He knows how to market himself. He's incredibly honest, straightforward. He's not scared to lose a friend or two by saying the wrong thing. You know, this guy knows how to use social media, and I have a lot of respect for him. He's about my age, and the guy's in tremendous shape. He's very disciplined. He's he gets it all. He gets it all.
And if my notes are correct, because I've actually been following, Legends Radio is also available over on Spreaker.
Yeah, we have it on everything. Yeah, Spreaker, all the different systems.
TuneIn.
Yeah, it's pretty much on everything. Legends TV. We're on UStream, YouTube, all the social media. You know, you could check out my Facebook page, EVANGINZBURG. We're out there. We're not hard to find. So, and I appreciate you giving me this much time, and anytime you want. I'm very impressed by what you did today, because some wrestling talk shows, they'll only talk wrestling. So I was very pleasantly surprised when you went on all these tangents. I hope the listeners enjoyed it also.
Our core group of listeners and those who've been listening for a while realize the fact that we can. I mean, look, you made something that almost got turned into something else a little while ago when you started bringing up comic books, because we could have ended up for the balance of the hour talking comic books, and we can do that in the near future.
Yeah. Well, wrestlers are basically comic book characters come to life. I mean, no disrespect, but I mean, if anybody's like a superhero, it was Hulk Hogan. If anybody was a super villain, it was the Iron Sheik or Roddy Piper. I mean, you know, it is what it is. I mean, some of these guys have capes.
Yeah,
you know?
They genuinely do. Real quick, I know that Legends Radio, the new edition will be coming out tomorrow night, September the 10th. Can you, who all do you got coming up?
We have Judo Gene LaBelle as the headline guest, and this guy, I don't know if you know him or not, but he was one of the original MMA guys. I mean, talk about mixed martial arts. This guy worked with Bruce Lee.
Nice.
I mean, and he was a wrestler, and he was in tons of Hollywood action movies, and very, very interesting guy. He's not a kid anymore, but one of the toughest guys on planet Earth, Judo Gene LaBelle. And, like I was saying earlier, the old Olympic Auditorium he worked out of, and that was a golden age of the territories and the Olympic, John Tolis, Victor Rivera, the Hollywood Blondes, Greg Valentine. I mean, it was a tremendous territory, and the promoters taped over the weekly TV to save money on the tapes. It's all gone.
Oh, no.
It's all gone. Yeah, imagine.
That is bad. Oh, Lord. Now, also, when is the new edition of Legends TV going to be going live?
Every Saturday.
So it is every Saturday, okay.
Standard at legendstvnyc.com, and we have this Saturday we have an R&B singer, we have some indie wrestlers, we have a psychiatrist talking about violence in sports, domestic abuse. It is a crazy mix that we do, and sounds like your audience could handle it. So,
oh yeah, definitely.
You know who scares me? The guys that wake up in the morning and the first thing they think of is, wow, I really hate John Cena, or wow, I really love John Cena. If that's the first thought, like 8 a.m. in the morning, something's very wrong. So if you have some interest outside of wrestling, I think it's a positive.
Now, do you have any other projects that you've got currently in the works that you can pass along?
I recently produced a documentary called Teresa Sario Alive Again about wounded warriors. Gary Sinise is in it. I'm working on a music documentary. The Stage is an Altar, pretty much about ageism, these incredible indie musicians. The world's not looking for a 30-year-old rapper. The world's not looking for a 40-year-old rocker. And, there's so many great musicians out there, but the music industry is looking for the next Justin Bieber or whomever. You mold some kid into whatever, and, it's very tough if you're over a certain age. I would have many, many times a musician would be in their mid to late 20s. Please, don't tell my age. Don't tell my age. I'm like, oh, my God, this is absurd. Absolutely. That's the nature of the business, unfortunately.
And in addition to everything else, you also act as an agent for some of the people you just mentioned?
Oh, yeah. I book Nicole Bass from the Howard Stern Show. She was in WWE and ECW, and Nikolai, Lanny Poffo, a lot of the old school guys. If anybody's ever looking for an old school guy for a party or an autograph signing, a wrestling appearance of some kind, a lot of these guys don't really want to wrestle much anymore. They're not kids, but Nikolai's still out there regularly. He's still in tremendous shape. He's still in the ring.
If I could, how can everybody track you down on social media?
Just look for me at Legends TV NYC.com or legendsradio.net or Facebook. I mean, that's not hard to find me. I'm there. I'm there too much. I need to get off. I need to get off of social media for a while. Just relax. I'm always promoting.
Trust me, I understand.
Right?
In the words of one of my favorite presidents, I feel your pain.
Yeah. It's I'll tell you though, every once in a while you just get such a warm response, such a great response, and it makes it all worthwhile because even with the wrestler, none of us got rich from it. I mean, it was an indie film. It was shot on $6 million, and people just assume you're involved with a major film, and everybody's gonna be swimming in money the rest of their life, and it's just not the case. So a lot of the projects you do, it's because you love it and you're passionate about it and you believe in it, and especially indie artists. I have a lot of respect for indie artists, and it can be a struggle.
Yes, it really can, because for a while, and this is something we're trying to get back to our roots on. When Beyond Ringside was terrestrial, and also in the early days of the internet run here on this particular series, we would try to feature up and coming artists and try to see if we could help get them exposure. And a lot of these guys were like, well, what all do we need to do? It's like, get me the artist release form and the songwriter release form, and get me a good, clear copy, and it will circumvent a lot of headaches, and we'll be more than happy to run the song for you. And a lot of guys in this era, it's like, well, I don't know if I can get that. It's like, well, you wrote the song, didn't you? Sign a piece of paper saying I wrote the song, and you can play it.
Yeah. A lot of indie artists are beaten down. They've had so many disappointments. They've been ripped off so many times. Even in wrestling, you talk to the wrestlers, how many times they haven't been paid. They've gone on tours, and the promoters stiffed them. And it's people after a while, they're not so trusting, and
True.
It's a shame. I mean, it really is. I tell people to put the power in their own hands, produce their own TV, their own radio, their own movies. Do it on a shoestring, but do it well.
Right.
And, it's some of the greatest filmmakers, it's very, very simple. Like Richard Linklater, who did Before Sunrise and Before Sunset, and basically it's people talking, but having something interesting to say.
Right. I understand.
You could do a great film on a low budget if you know what the movie Once. Did you ever see Once?
That I haven't seen.
It's really a modern musical. It's such a beautiful film. It was shot on $125,000, and it won an Oscar for Best Song. I mean,
nice.
It's a new era. I mean, you could go to Kickstarter, Indiegogo, whatever, get some funding for your own projects, and if you know what you're doing, you don't have to spend a fortune of money to do quality work. And, you know, I would tell you and anybody else, do your own TV.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's not that expensive anymore, and,
Nope.
you know, learn the equipment yourself, and it's there for the taking. It's, God, there's thousands and thousands of channels today. They're all looking for content.
True.
And, you know, as long as the only motivation isn't I have to get rich from it, I think you might have some positive results. I mean, what I find is you throw enough stuff out there and some of it will land. Some of it will land and some of it won't. Simple as that.
My incentive is if I genuinely do television, which I've had the honor and privilege of doing before and the insanity of doing before, I approach it the same way as I approach radio, and that's to have fun. With everything else in play, there's enough stress, there's enough drama, there's enough crap out there. I don't want to add to it. I just want to give people a release point and help them just to chuck it out the window, kick back, listen, and have a little fun for a while.
Well, when we did The Wrestler, Aronofsky explained to me, he said, you know, if anybody's difficult, if anybody's not prompt, if anyone's, you know, too much ego, not professional, you quietly, politely, you know, don't use them. I mean, it's hard enough. It's just hard enough. And that's what I tell people. You know, you hit a certain age and you just get tired of they call it the Peter Pan syndrome.
Right.
You know, the guy never grew up. You know, you can't get here on time. It's a live show. I'm just not going to book you again. You know, you're not reliable. Well, I'm sorry. We're not going to work together. You know, you don't have to be mean. You don't have to yell. You don't have to trash each other on social media. You know, it's just surround yourself with positive, mutually supportive people who have the same goals. And it is not easy to do projects together. People have different creative visions, different you know, issues with money. One wants to spend more, one wants to spend less, one wants to spend for promotion, one wants to save the money on promotion and do it themselves. You know, it gets very complicated. So at bare minimum, you know, surround yourself with people who you totally trust and care about and, you know, even love, you know, people you love and that you want to work with. And, you know, generally that's when things will work. And, you know, sometimes things go south. I mean, I've known brothers who have broken up over business and projects.
I've seen it too. I have to ask.
Yeah, it's look, you're doing interesting radio. I've been on radio shows where I'm on the show and I'm bored out of my mind. You know, so I'm serious. I've you know, it's like please let me get off of this. You know, I'm enjoying talking to you because it's not just wrestling. And don't get me wrong, I love wrestling. I love wrestling. Wrestling. My former radio mentor described to me as the proletarian performance art. It's the theater of the people. It's good versus evil. It's so, you know, when you see, for example, a Daniel Bryan, a Cesaro, a CM Punk, who else? Austin Aries.
Yes.
These guys are artists. Okay? Like any other artist, when it's done right, it's a beautiful thing. And when it's done wrong, you know, which many of the times it is,
train wreck.
You just cringe. You go, how did they waste this guy? I mean, you know, WWE on TV could be painful to me, actually painful.
It was yesterday.
You know, yeah, you've seen the best. You've seen... You know, I was there at the Garden when they had Tiger Mask and Dynamite Kid.
Nice.
I was there when when Snuka jumped off the cage on Morocco. I saw some of the greatest. I was there for Slaughter and Sheik and Piper and Snuka, and it's like. So then when you see it and you go, this is for kiddies, or this is for the lowest common denominator. It's just very disillusioning sometimes.
I can, believe me, I can genuinely understand, and that's a conversation I would really love to go in depth with you on. Mr. Ginsburg, Evan, I want to thank you for taking the time to come on this evening. It has been a blast. This has been a long time coming, and it has been worth every second of it. Would you come back on and join us again sometime?
Oh, absolutely, and I want to invite you on Legends Radio. I'm going to email you offline. We'll set up a date because you're a good talker. You really are. Thank you.
I take that as a very high compliment. I greatly appreciate it, sir.
And I want you to know. Let me just say one last thing. I've been doing radio since 1991. And you have a radio voice. Oh, you really do. You have. I don't. I sound like any guy from the streets of Brooklyn, but you have a radio voice.
It's a blessing and a curse, and it's because of this voice I can't call 900 numbers. They don't take me seriously.
Really? Wow.
Just figured I'd throw that one out there.
I'm very serious. You're good at what you do, and you're a good listener. A lot of radio hosts, they're not listening. They're just chomping at the bit, to get their point in.
Yeah.
It's radio is an art when it's done right, and you know what you're doing. I can tell. I've done it a long time.
I just try to have fun. I just try to help the person with whom I'm speaking have fun. And one thing that I try to get across to everybody is like there's always, it's like if I want to hear myself talk, I can go take a shower. But I'd like to hear what you have to say in the way that you say it, and I wanted finding out more about your background in different areas. And there's so many different areas that we really haven't tapped.
Yeah, look, I'll come back anytime, no problem. I mean, I pre-tape my shows on Tuesdays, so if you ever need a guest on Tuesday, I'm here already, so no problem, no problem.
Thank you again. It is greatly appreciated. And I want to thank you for being so generous with your time. Ladies and gentlemen.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Our very special guest, Mr. Evan Ginsburg, has just gone beyond ringside on the Tuesday Conversation. Hang with us, going to a quick one, and we'll be back right after this.
Hello, everybody. This is Dirty Dutch Mantel, and you're locked into Beyond Ringside.
Hey, guys. This is Christy Ritchie, and you're locked into Beyond Ringside.
This is the Oracle of Ominous, the Wicked Nemesis. Ladies and gentlemen, join us live every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, the To Be Determined show, Beyond Ringside Radio Network, beyondringside.com. We are radio and we are uncensored. Join myself, the Wicked Nemesis, and of course the Grand Design 5 Braddock and Fast Eddie Lane. We'll have several guests. You never know who's going to come on, but you can guarantee one thing, bet your bottom dollar, everyone, the To Be Determined show is uncensored. So those under 18, you might want to ask your parents. Beyond Ringside, the To Be Determined show, beyondringsideradio.com.
You have tuned in and are now live listening to the 3-time NWA Heavyweight Champion of the World, Scrapper and Adam Pearce. And just like you, I am also locked in. And brother, we are Beyond Ringside.
Hey everyone, this is the Cosz, Robert Cosper, host of Cosz and Effects Thursday Night Radio Throwdown. This is your invitation to join me, along with the Effects Stuart Couch, Mad Dog Dan Sawyer, and all of the craziness that is C&E, right here every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. It's wrestling radio with a twist, and some might just say with a twist of lime when the bar is open. Cause and Effect, right here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network.
Yo, what's up? This Coolio with the Flow, a.k.a. the Ghetto Gourmet, and you locked in to Beyond Ringside. Ding, ding.
Sunday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern here on BeyondRingside.com. Join us for the Midnight Black Mass. Myself, the Reverend Dan Wilson, brings you the dark gospel of professional wrestling, uncensored, unedited, uncut, and not for the faint of heart. You can find out more about us at youtube.com/pottyhumor or subscribe at Potty Humor on iTunes and Stitcher today.
This is Nigel McGuinness, Ring of Honor superstar, and you are locked in to Beyond Ringside. Stay tuned, wankers.
Hey, this is Stan Grubb for WrestleRage Radio right here on BeyondRingside.com. Join us every Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for myself and Smart Rage as we discuss the professional wrestling business from WWE, TNA, and all things in between. We'll have an interview here or there. We'll see what we can do to just keep you entertained. And along the way, we're going to have to bring up some emotion and make you think. That's what we like to do. So join us here on Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll see you at WrestleRage.
Hi, everybody. This is Jerry the King Lawler. That's right, the host of the #1 rated show in all of cable television, Monday Night Raw. That's right, Jerry the King Lawler, WWE Hall of Famer, Jerry the King Lawler, and I am locked into Beyond Ringside, without a doubt.
Going at 7 minutes before the top of the hour. Welcome back into Beyond Ringside, Back to Basics. Fast Eddie Lane, live from Studio One. Ready to start putting a wrap on this Tuesday kind of thing. I want to take a moment, once again, a very heartfelt thank you to Evan Ginsberg for coming on this evening. You know, there are circumstances where you're sitting back going, I'm not quite sure how things are going. We've had these discussions. You heard what we talked about a few minutes ago. And then I look down and it's like, holy crap, we've gone an hour and there's so much more that we can talk about. And it's one of those genuine cases. I wasn't surprised. I was just surprised at how fast the hour flew. I was thinking back, we're 35, 36 minutes, and it's like, no, hour's gone by. And it's one of those moments where you genuinely appreciate what you do when you're able to have a discourse with someone and cover for as many different topics as we did cover. There's a whole bunch that we didn't. And those will come up in later days. Mr. Ginsberg and I did speak a little bit off there, and we are going to work on trying to, for him coming back on in the near future. And he has been kind enough to extend an invitation for yours truly to pop on Legends Radio. And I'm very humbled by that and very thankful, very appreciative. Definitely check it out. Legends TV, Legends Radio. I've had a chance to listen to Legends Radio, a number of the different episodes, and it's always fun. It's always good radio. And it's the ability to get lost in the moment and just say, you know, something, this is cool, this is fun. When's the next one coming out? Well, here's the fun part. Just like with us, and there's your shameless crossover for a minute there. There are archives. So you can catch up on previous episodes of Legends TV and Legends Radio. And once again, I just want to say a very heartfelt thank you to Mr. Ginsberg for coming on this evening. Tremendous to have him on. We've actually been working on getting this in place, and I finally had an opportunity, got in touch, and it's like, sure, come on, let's do it. Let's have fun. Definitely. So I want to thank him for taking me up on the invitation to come on Beyond Ringside. Sudbury Boy, thank you for coming through the chat room. Great to see you passing through this evening. To everybody who's been listening through UStream, thank you so much. Finding out that Shoutcast and WinAmp are both back active again. That is tremendous. So to everybody who's been listening through Shoutcast for Apple, through WinAmp for Windows, BlackBerry, and Android portable devices, thank you. To everybody who has been picking us up over on TuneIn Radio and TuneIn's radio app, thank you. Greatly appreciated. Our Podomatic site is up, going full scale. And I want to remind everybody that you can catch if you look on the media page at beyondringside.com, you have direct links to WrestleRage Radio, their podcast site, To Be Determined, their podcast site, Beyond Ringside, our podcast site, and the podcast site for the Midnight Black Mass with the good Reverend Dan Wilson. And I said this at the top of the show, and I'm going to say it one more time. If you have not had a chance to catch the Midnight Black Mass from this week, first off, the Revs rant, I loved every second of it. Don't blink, because it'll hit you. And, of course, great time, the interview with Scott Hudson. And come to find out, that is part 1. There is a part 2 on the horizon. Thank you to everybody who has been following us through social media, regardless which one it was, through LinkedIn, Google+, Facebook, MySpace. Yes, we're on MySpace still. And there's some, believe it or not, some live people who are out there. It's actually a quite scary thought. I want to give you the brief rundown. Let's do this real quick. Actually, there was something else I was trying to find, and I can't find it. I know what I did. It's over there it is. Okay, let me go ahead and do this. And yes, you're going to hear the music come up, which means I'm putting myself on a time scale real quick. Any other time, it would be right there. That would explain it. Switch headsets. Hi there. It's working now. Sorry, trying to do too much. And I've got some freshly fried catfish waiting on me too. So Friday, September the 12th, Championship Wrestling Entertainment in Port St. Lucie, Florida at Erosa Boulevard at the Community Center. Check it out, 8 p.m. bell time. Friday, September the 12th, Alternative Pro Wrestling, 305 Cherry Street, Royston, Georgia, 8:15 p.m. start time. Monstrosity Championship Wrestling this Friday, September the 12th at the Masquerade, 695 North Avenue Northeast, 9 p.m. bell time in Atlanta, Georgia. AAW Wrestling at the Berwyn Eagles Club, 6309 West 26th Street, Berwyn, Illinois, 7:45 p.m. start time. Once again, that is Friday, September the 12th. Coming up this coming Saturday, September the 13th, AIWF Total Wrestling Experience, 4825 Dayton Boulevard, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Saturday, September the 13th, Capital Pro Wrestling, Arundel, PCYC in Wanniassa, Australia, 5:30 p.m. local time. Thank you to Capital Pro Wrestling for sending the info over. Greatly appreciated. SoCal Pro Wrestling at the Oceanside Boys and Girls Club, 401 Country Club Lane, Oceanside, California, 7 p.m. start time. Check out SoCalProWrestling.com. Also on Saturday, Vintage, you got it, Saturday, September the 13th at the Orlando Downtown Rec Center, 649 West Livingston Street in Orlando, Florida, 8 p.m. start time. Check out Facebook.com/Vintage Wrestling. The Florida Rumble this Saturday night was originally trying to get in touch, and we just did not have an opportunity to lock everything as far as communication goes. Be careful, because we could turn this around and you could hear something coming up on Cause and Effect this Thursday night. Here's the rundown for the calendar. Tomorrow, September the 10th, it will be the To Be Determined show, 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Wicked Nemesis, Clyde Braddock, uncensored, unashamed, unabashed, unapologetic. Doggone right. Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Cause and Effect present the Thursday night radio throwdown. The Cosz, Robert Cosper. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. You're old, but not as old as me. The Cosz, Robert Cosper, The Effect, Stuart Couch, the Mad Dog, Dan Sawyer, making their return this Thursday, September the 11th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central. Cause and Effect present the Thursday night radio throwdown. Saturdays, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. Yours truly, Robert Cosper, and the Hitman Big Daddy Cool, Ryan Adcock, for the Saturday Showcase. Check us out. Sundays, the Trifecta. Beyond Ringside Live, Sundays, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 Central. Yours truly, Mark Mabo Bowman and the Wicked Nemesis. At 9 p.m. Eastern, Sunday night, it will be WrestleRage Radio with Smart Rage and Stan. Join Corey and Stan. You got it. Ready to have a little fun? Well, so are they. 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. The top of the hour after Beyond Ringside Live. And, of course, on Sundays, 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 Central. Unless they have another really good interview that goes long. It will be the Midnight Black Mass, starring the good Reverend Dan Wilson. And actually, yes, the Midnight Black Mass started right at 11:20 Eastern this week. Thank you to everybody who hung in Sunday night. The Trifecta is a lot of fun to produce and put together. It's a challenge, and you know something? I enjoy every minute of it. BeyondRingside.com, the home. And want to give everybody the rundown real quick. At Fast Eddie Lane, Layne on Twitter. FastEddieLane.com is my home site. Want to remind everybody, in my home market of Birmingham, Alabama, Friday nights, get your butt out the house. Let's have a little fun. Come on down to Buffalo Wild Wings in Alabaster at the Promenade Shopping Center. Friday night, karaoke kicks off 9 p.m. local time. That is Central. Thanks for playing. All ages, family fun for everyone. Come hang out. Come sing. Come hang out. Don't sing. Come hang out. Let's all have fun. Buffalo Wild Wings in Alabaster this Friday night, 9 o'clock. Facebook.com/FastStudyLane also. Thank you. I appreciate social media. Also, MySpace.com/FastStudyLane. LinkedIn, Google+, Instagram @FastStudyLane. There you go. Covered them all. Join Beyond Ringside on Facebook, facebook.com/Beyond Ringside Live. 4,999 people on the friends list, 1,764 people waiting. That number will not drop. Please come to the fan page, facebook.com/Beyond Ringside Live. We post similar things on both sides. That way nobody misses anything. Gonna call it. Gonna go have some dinner. To Mr. Evan Ginsberg, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I greatly appreciate it and enjoyed the living hell out of it. Looking forward to having you back on real soon. Folks, live programming picks up tomorrow, Wednesday, September 10, with the To Be Determined show. Until next time, for all of us here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network, back to basics and the Tuesday night conversation. In the words of Garth Brooks, say hello to the band. I'm waving. This is the Magic City Motor Mouth, Fast Eddie Lane, saying adios, das vidania, hasta luego, auf Wiedersehen. You know the rest. Have a great night, and join us again as we all go Beyond Ringside. Bye-bye.